Chapter 412, Purge. Wearing a lion headgear, Seven took a moment to think before speaking. I've only heard rumors that the Mariontist disappeared with some classified information. That's not true, Franca replied, dropping the act. Seven had already figured out that the truth of that night involved the two of them teaming up with Hela to deal with Loki. Loki didn't possess any such information. Seven didn't argue with her and continued discussing the rumors. And the classified information seems to be tied to a treasure left behind by a secret organization. Left behind treasure. Lumion and Franca both remembered the castle Dylan mentioned by I Know Someone. The location of this mysterious castle remained unknown, and Loki's dreams featured a towering and ominous ancient castle. Seven continued, there are also members of Bureau 8 who suspect that the terrifying aura from that night is connected to the missing Mariontist. An intelligence supervisor named Antoine has been repeatedly asking for more details. Antoine, he believes Loki's disappearance wasn't random, and something must have happened to him. Lumion made a mental note of the name. After recounting the rumors, Seven glanced at Muggle and said half-jokingly, "It's best if you avoid the market district. Hidden Blade has stirred up trouble there. It's very dangerous." "Who said that? Security has clearly improved," Franca responded confidently. Ever since she and Lumion had taken down the leaders of the Poison Spur mob, the Savoy mob had taken control of the entire market district. The frequency of mob fights, shootings, and killings had decreased significantly, and security had improved. Seven sighed and remarked, "That's only on the surface. There are more incidents involving supernatural powers than before. Sigh, I wonder when I'll get a long vacation." Lumion, in the role of Muggle, conversed with Seven for a while before returning to the academy team. Professor, wearing a black butterfly mask, approached him and let out a soft sigh. "I was worried that something had happened to you due to the hidden sage's whispers, and you needed some time to recover. Who would have thought that Loki's gang was behind it?" After cursing Loki and his gang, she turned to Muggle for confirmation. "Have you noticed that the hidden sage's whispers have taken on a disturbing change in recent months?" Auror's grimoires didn't contain any records of this. Lumion thought for a moment and replied with a hint of bitterness. "Nothing much. As you know, I was affected by the soul summoning spell in the first few months of this year. My mental state was unstable, and recently I've sealed a part of my personality. The issues with my body haven't been fully resolved. I had already digested the Warlock potion and was planning to gather ingredients for advancement, but I haven't dared to do so now." The professor understood and cautioned, "You should be careful. Until your mental problems are completely resolved and you return to your normal state, don't consider consuming the potion." Her voice lowered as she continued, "I've noticed that the hidden sage's whispers have been revealing more living knowledge lately. It's the kind of knowledge that actively seeks out individuals and insists on entering their minds. This makes it even more dangerous for beyonders of the mystery prior pathway like us. More knowledge actively pursuing individuals. Has the hidden sage's nature changed?" Lumion had heard his sister Auror mention the knowledge pursuer, so he didn't appear confused or bewildered. He nodded solemnly and said, "I'll be cautious." Professor didn't press further and continued discussing the specifics of the contract with Associate Professor and the other Academy team members. Muggle Lumion also took part in the conversation. It took more than half an hour for the teams to gather their members' opinions, document them, and submit them to the review committee. After careful consolidation, adoption, and rejection by Gandalf, Hela, and others, along with collective discussions involving all members of the Curly-Haired Baboons Research Society, the terms of the contract were painstakingly finalized. It wasn't clear if everyone tacitly agreed to enter the nation of the Evernight, but the gathering included transmigrators. There was no requirement for members of the Curly-Haired Baboons Research Society to be of the same kind or come from the same world. Hela was aware of this, but chose not to bring it up. This allowed Lumion to fully meet the conditions and willingly comply with the contract's restrictions. He wouldn't secretly investigate the backgrounds of the Research Society members and wouldn't intentionally harm one another. However, there were certain exceptions. The contract granted the review committee the right to investigate suspected members, but they couldn't pass judgment or make decisions unilaterally. They had to convene a special gathering and inform all members of the situation. Every member would then vote on guilt and suggest a rough range of punishment. Loki and the others, who were currently being pursued, were no longer protected. Anyone had the authority to apprehend them. After the contract was approved, Hidden Blade Franca, who stood beside Lumion, let out a sigh of relief and genuinely commented, "Once everyone signs the contract, the Research Society will truly become a secret organization." It was too lax before. Many matters relied on everyone's self-awareness. Lumion, showing only the lower half of Auror's face, smiled and replied, "After all, you all didn't come together for anything significant before. You lacked a strict hierarchy. It's only natural that you had the freedom to do as you pleased." A loosely organized group could only mature gradually after weathering various challenges. As Vice President Apollo drafted an extensive mystical contract, the various teams resumed their daily discussions. This time, the primary focus of each team was on Loki and his companions' actions and potential accomplices. Gandalf, Headmaster, Hela, Hidden Blade, and others moved from team to team, observing each member's reactions closely. Suddenly, the Research Society member disguised as a horse began reciting the incantation to leave the nation of the Evernight before the review committee could patrol his area. A Beyonder from ancient times, the ruler of the nation of the Evernight, the noble mother of heaven. The voice echoed through the ancient palace, but before the figure could finish the incantation, his eyes closed and he fell asleep. The surrounding members of the Curly-Haired Baboons Research Society were momentarily shocked before realizing the situation. They cursed, "Traitor." This individual had been one of Loki's hidden accomplices. With the mole incapacitated, the review committee resumed their patrol. 15 minutes later, the contract, as large as 2 dining tables, was produced, bearing the signature of a notary. Exhausted, Vice President Apollo drank a potion provided by Gandalf to alleviate his mental fatigue. In the following period, members of the Curly-Haired Baboons Research Society ascended the steps one by one. Under the watchful eyes of the review committee, they read the contract and signed it using the nicknames they had been using for years. During this process, the fog outside the ancient palace grew denser, as if preventing any external interference. Once all the members had signed, 3 more traitors were exposed. One of them transformed into a torch of light after signing, while another attempted to abduct his companion next to him, only to fall into a deep slumber. Seeing this, the 3rd traitor chose to confess. After a vote, the one who confessed was handled by a hypnotist to erase relevant memories. He was expelled from the Research Society, while the remaining 3 turned into Beyonder characteristics. Hela concluded, "Gandalf and I will investigate the family situations of these members. If they are ordinary people and there are no issues, I suggest auctioning off the Beyonder characteristics for money and providing compensation." This compensation wasn't a reward for their wrongdoings, but rather a way to assist the relatives of the members who had taken over the bodies and could no longer provide support. Many members of the Curly-Haired Baboons Research Society had transmigrated to this world 5 to 6 years ago. Some had wives and children. Upon hearing this proposal, they were moved and felt it wouldn't be fair to implicate their families. Lumion had no objections. He still considered himself an outsider in this situation. In the remaining time, Lumion visited various teams, following Hidden Blade Franca's guidance, and identified 2 artisans capable of crafting mystical items. He didn't rush to interact with the artisans and entrust them with the hypnotist Beyonder characteristic from I Know Someone. Instead, he planned to wait for Anthony Reed. The assistance a hypnotist could provide far exceeded that of a corresponding mystical item. After all, most mystical items couldn't speak or offer advice and guidance. Due to Loki's incident and the exposure of hidden traitors, many members of the Curly-Haired Baboons Research Society lost their enthusiasm and chose to depart without lingering, causing the number of people in the ancient palace to dwindle. The professor and associate professor couple, who had initially intended to organize an academy team, gathering in Trier, temporarily abandoned the idea. At noon the following day, Lumian casually arrived at Salle de Balbrise with a Rouen meatloaf in hand. Upon entering the cafe on the second floor, he spotted Rat Christo. The short smuggling leader, sporting a pair of rat-like whiskers, greeted him with a smile. Lumian raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile, "Got into trouble?" Simultaneously, he thought to himself, this guy is a Sequence 8 beast tamer. Beyond that is Sequence 7 vampire. With his current appearance, I wonder how the potion will increase his charm and height. Christo chuckled and said, "There's something I want to ask you. I can't make up my mind." Lumian pulled up a chair and sat down. "And what's the matter?" Christo, resembling a large rat, glanced around and said, "The Trier Cave Association invited me to join them. Why do you think they're interested in recruiting me?" The Trier Cave Association was a group of individuals passionate about exploring and studying caves. Over time, it expanded its scope to include mining and drew in mine owners as well. In Trier, the region with the most caves was underground.